Um, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 4. I want to present our Umberto Eco, a theory of semiotic science. And the member is for the first is Amira Sarwa, second is Hansen Zendrato, Gevira Hadiananta, Miftahul Khoria, Pratiwi Susmita, dan Cecilia Pardede.
Biography of Umberto Eco. Umberto Eco was an Italian writer, philosopher, and semiotician born on January of modest means, and his father worked as an accountant. Eco developed a love of literature and went on to study medieval philosophy and literature at the University of Turin, where he received his doctorate in 1954. In addition to his work as a writer and scholar, Eco was a public intellectual and commentator, frequently appearing on television and in print media to discuss cultural and political issues. He was also a passionate advocate for European unity and served as a member of the European Parliament from 1999 to 2004. Theory by Umberto Eco. The starting point of Eco's theory is the fact that in both industrialized and nature-based civilizations, human beings are evolving in a system of systems of science. Drawing much of his inspiration from the work of peers, he developed his theory of the sign in 1973 and went on to revise it in 1988. A distinguishing feature of Eco's theory is that in addition to words and language, it also addresses non-linguistic and even natural science, which do signify based on a code or previous learning. He then proposed a theory of science that emphasized the importance of context in determining the meaning of a sign. According to Eco, signs are not fixed and universal, but are instead subject to the influence of the culture and historical context in which they are used.
A theory of semiotics. A theory of semiotics is a complete treatise on the new discipline. In Italian, in fact, it is called Trattato in semiotica di semiotica generale. The original feature of Eco's semiotics is the attempt to form a synthesis of the Helmholtzian and structuralist approach and Peirce's theory of interpretation. Eco performs his synthesis of these two major trends in semiotics by inserting the notion of interpretation into the theory of code. Theory of signs. From the many meanings listed in the dictionaries for a sign, a comprehensive definition has been formulated. The sign is used to transmit information, to say or to indicate a thing that someone knows and wants others to know as well. The sign fits into the simplified canonical model of communication: source, sender, channel, message, receiver. This model can be applied to most processes of communication. However, a message can pass through a channel from sender to receiver without ever signifying if the sender and the receiver do not share a common code. Besides being an element in the process of communication, the sign is also an actor in the process of signification.
The importance of the code. In the process of significations, the code is primordial. For example, if a person say, "Viens ici" to a friend, the friend will only understand if he or she speaks French. The sender and receiver must share a common code that is like a series of rules that we allow one to attribute a significations to the signs. Codes are necessary for any communicative activity. There are as many codes like linguistic and non-linguistic, as there are activities and contexts. For example, the code of medical semiotics, the study of Simpson, is what allowed the doctor to conclude that the patient's stomachache is in fact a liver problem. Classification of signs. Since the word signs designates a multitude of different objects, Eco formulated an initial classifications wherein he distinguished artificial signs and natural signs. Afterwards, he refined these classifications, and signs become signs functions in his typology of the modes of sign productions, or see the chapter on the modes of signs productions.
Classification of signs. First one is artificial signs. Artificial signs are divided into two classes. First is signs internationally produced in order to signify, and second is signs internationally produced as functions. Signs internationally produced in order to signify, these signs always originate from a sender, or human or animal. They are produced consciously by someone, based on specific conventions, and with the aim of communicating something to someone. The second is signs internationally produced as functions. This class owes its existence to the current trend in semiotics, which Eco expresses as follows. Once society exists, every function is automatically transformed into a sign of that function. Consequently, included in this class of signs are objects such as architectural creations, clothing, furniture, modes of transportation, and etc.
Natural science. Natural science are divided into two classes. One, science identified with natural things or events. Two, science unintentionally produced by a human agent. One, science identified with natural things or events. These signs origin from a natural source. They do not have a human sender. In order for these signs to signify despite being naturally produced, they must be decodable through the previous learning of the individual who encounters them. Nature is also a universe of sign. The position of the sun indicates what time is it. For example, an accumulation of gray clouds signifies an approaching storm, and so on. Two, signs produced unintentionally by a human agent. These signs do not have an international sender. They are produced by a human, but do not consistently or deliberately. For example, the doctor can decode the spots on his patient's skin and thereby conclude that the patient has a liver disease. The reverse is impossible. The patient cannot deliberately produce these signs, symptoms in this case, on his skin in order to signify the disease. This class also includes physiological symptoms, behavior, disposition, in the case of race, class, and regional origin, etc.
All right, that's all from group 4 for presented the Umberto Eco, a theory from Umberto Eco. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.